Today I'm going to discuss about AJAX. So what is AJAX? In the first part, I would like to explain about the concept of AJAX. And then after that, we are going to take a look on the jQuery. So what is jQuery? And at the third section, we are going to learn about how to apply CRUD in AJAX. First, about the AJAX. What is AJAX? So I think last week we learned the words about AJAX. It is the asynchronous JavaScript. So we need to deal with the AJAX, especially for CRUD, because whenever you do with the client, client wants to have a very convenient way to connect with the internet. So maybe next week, yeah, we will learn a little bit about table. So how we can do something related to the table, and then how we can get the table from the library with AJAX. And with the AJAX, we can create a new model instance without going back and forth in the website. So after this, I will show you the architecture, how we can deal with the AJAX. And we can do the CRUD operations in the application. It means we don't need to have a kind of server. So we just need to have the application in the website, and then the client can do the CRUD by themselves. And it is a way to manipulate the models and database without having to refresh the web pages each time. So when you do with the web, usually you need to refresh to deal something with the server. But with the AJAX, you don't need to do the refresh because AJAX happens in the client side. So this is the way how the AJAX work. What you already learned until now is from the browser, you connect directly to the server. So you have the HTML, you have the requests for the HTTP. Yeah, you can also deal with the CSS, you can deal with the JavaScript. So the browser, when it calls something, maybe when you press the button, it calls to the server and then returns the HTML, or yes, it shows the CSS and etc. But now we want to leverage the AJAX engine. So the AJAX engine means this is a kind of middleware, or yeah, we call this is middleware, something in between the browser and the server. So you can deal with this AJAX engine. However, for the first time, yeah, you need to initiate this one first. You need to initiate this, and then you will return back the HTML. Okay, so first you need to initiate the request by the user, the browser. So the user requests a particular URL, and then after that, the server will send the complete page. So it will be rendered by the server. And this one will be along with the JavaScript AJAX engine. it will be sent to the client, which is the HTML, CSS, JavaScript AJAX engine. And then whenever you do something with the web, so the all subsequent requests to the server are initiated as function. So we will create the function that calls to the JavaScript engine. So later we will check how to make the function call. And then after the function call the AJAX engine, the JavaScript engine then make a kind of XML HTTP request to the server. So this kind of AJAX engine will generate something, a kind of request using the XML HTTP request. And then after that, the server will process the request and send a response in XML format. So last week, we learned about the XML. So there will be an XML data sent to the AJAX engine, and it contains the data only of the page element that need to be changed. So there will be some data that you can send to the AJAX engine. Then this is only the data, and the data is in the format of XML. And in most cases, this data comprises just a fraction of the total page markup. So we will not do all the HTML. We will just do partial HTML. We will just do some part of the data. Okay, so we will not do all the HTML. That's why people use AJAX frequently, because it deals only with the partial data. And then after we complete with this XML data, the AJAX engine process the server response and updates the relevant page contents or performs another operation with the new data received from the server. So at the end, the browser will show the HTML with the CSS along with the XML data. So this XML data, usually you cannot see how is the format, but it will be sent automatically to this AJAX engine, and then you will see directly on the browser. So this is the architecture of using the AJAX. Now let's just try, okay, to create a new project. And for this project, I will create the main, and then I will create the database, and then I will need a JavaScript, okay, and I'm going to have one HTML. So this is the page that we are going to create. So let's suppose we are going to create a snack inventory. Okay. So I will have only name of the snack and the price. Okay, so this is just for the simplicity. And then the actions will be about the edit and delete. Okay, so we will check later about the function edit and delete for this one. Now let's do one by one. Let me open the PyCharm. Let me create a new project. Okay, it has the fast API. So let me just make a pure Python project. So maybe it will be the same with your environment. Let me create a basic AJAX. Okay, select the existing. Okay. Okay, and then yeah, we have the main.py, we have database.py. I think last week we already know we need to have one folder to put the JavaScript, okay, and then we need to have one folder to put the HTML. Okay, so let me create the folder. I need to have the static, and then I need to have the JS folder, and then I need to have a new folder, templates. Okay. So for the database, let's create the database. So I think you already know how to get the database with the SQL Alchemy. So we have the engine. We need to define what are the data types, like the string, integer, float, and then we need to set the session, and we need to have the base model. Okay. So this is the header. Let's create a new file, database.py. And then we can create the engine. So for this one, I'm creating a database in the memory, because I think some of you have the issues with your PyCharm, especially when you open the database. So in this example, let me just create a database in the memory for easy example. Okay. In this case, database which is in the memory, it means we don't need to create any DB. So this is just for the demo version. It means you can see here in the memory, sometimes if you create your DB, it will create .db. When you run this code, there will be no DB file here, okay? Because we want to create the database in the memory. But the bad thing of this memory is whenever you stop your code, then all the data will be removed. So there will be no data again. So let me create the database. And for this database, there will be two kind of database. First database is the SQL Alchemy. It means that I'm going to make this database for the model. And yeah, for now, I'm using the memory-based database. It means this table will be saved in the memory. Okay. So I'm going to create the table later using this class. And I have another kind of model. So this model, or the Pythonic model, it is the model for the API or for the AJAX. Okay. So those two will be connected each other. But in this case, because we are going to use the AJAX, you need to have two kind of model. Okay. So the first is for the DB itself. It means you need to store in your server. And the other is the AJAX DB, which is the connector between the JavaScript and the server. Okay, after you finish with the DB, now let's create the main.py. I think you already know all the things in the main.py. Yeah, we are using the UVCon, the fast API, and etc. And then from the database, we create the snack the snack schema. So the snack schema is the class snack schema in the database, which is using the pydantic model for the AJAX. Snack is the SQL alchemy for the DB that will be saved in the memory. So we call those two classes. And then let's do the API creation. So here we want to create the app from the fast API. And then because you are using the JavaScript, please do not forget to put the static. So static means this is to refer to the static folder that you have. And then we are going to call later with the name static whenever we use the HTML. The next is the Jinja. Yeah, I think you already know. You need to put the HTML files in the template folder. This is for the DB. So you can open the DB when you connect to the HTML. Now, you need to create the root. The root means if you are in the root, then you will show the index.html. Now, you can create the API. So the API means you can create only the data that you want to connect from the database. So this is the API. When you have a new snack data, then it will show all the snack data. Okay, so we use the db.query from snack, and then we want to show it all. So there are two kind of API. First is get, and the other is post. So do you still remember what is the difference between get and post? So get means you will have some more information after the link. So for example, I want to get the snack equals to chocolate, for example. Then you can have more information in this case. But if you are using post, then there will be no information after this link. So we are using the post method here in order to add the snack. So if you want to add the snack, let's use post. But if you want to get, or if you want to retrieve the information, let's use the get function. So for the add snack, we have the data from the snack schema. So it means we are going to connect to the pydantic model. What is the pydantic? Pydantic is from this one. This is for the API or the AJAX one. And then for the session, we are going to get from the DB. What is the DB? In this case, the DB is from the snack. We have the session local. Okay, the session local means this one. Okay. The session local is the session maker, and the session maker will connect to the engine. What is the engine? This is the engine. So this is the engine, and the base will connect to the engine according to the snack database. Next, we are going to update and delete the data. For the adding the data, I think you already learned this before. Okay. So for adding the data, let's say that I have a new snack. Okay. So I'm going to connect to the snack. After I connect to the snack, then I will add the new snack and then commit. So refresh, it means just get the data and then show from the API. When you do with the update, again, you need to get the data from the Python link and then get the DB. So the DB means the session that you got from the server. Now I'm going to get the item. The item means I'm going to get the snack and then filter from the snack ID. Snack.id equals to snack ID that you got from the later from the API. And then I'm going to get the first data. So if there is no item, then you can show the error message. Okay, so for example, snack not found. So I think it is the same in Python. We have the exception. And you will show the name and the price. So name from the data will be updated into the item name. Price from the data, it will be updated into the item price, and then you can update the database based on the item. If you delete this data, then again, you call what is the ID. And after you got the ID, again, search the ID from the database. If you can get the ID, then delete the item and then commit. So you will complete the deletion, and yeah, we can just give the message finish. The message has been deleted. If there is no data, then you can just put the error message. Okay, the last one is the main function, or in order to run the app. Now let's create the index.html in the folder templates. In the folder templates, let's make a new HTML file, index. And then, yeah, I will put this. So you already know about this link. So this is the bootstrap. Okay, you can get the bootstrap using the CDN, content delivery network. And then I'm just making two pattern, two texts. Okay. The first text is a name. So the name of the snack. Okay, so the placeholder is name. And the other is using the number. It is about the price. And then I have the ID submit button. So if I click this button, then let's do save snack. Okay. So later we will check where is the function save snack. So here I have the table. I have the table here, and the table header will be name, price, and action. For the body, I'm using list. So what is list? So later we will check what is list in this section. And yeah, later on I will explain about the jQuery. So what is the jQuery? But let me just put this one. Let as it is. And then I'm going to get the script. So the script name is DOM script. Okay. So DOM script.js, it will be the JavaScript text that we will create later. Now let's create the JavaScript. So this is the skeleton. Let's create the name of the JavaScript is DOM underbar script.js. Let's create the JavaScript file, DOM script.js. So this is the skeleton. It is to make it clear. The first, I'm just giving two kind of variable. The first variable is edit mode. So the edit mode equals to false. It means whenever you show the data, okay, if you show the data, maybe, okay, let me try to run. Okay, so you can see the page like this one. When you see this data, you cannot do the editing. Okay. So now the button add also is not working, because if you look at the HTML, add, add means you need to have the function save snack. Okay, so now we still have no function save snack. So let's do one by one. In the JavaScript, edit mode now equals to false, and the current edit ID now starts with null. So I'm going to create at least 4 functions. The first function is loading function. The second function is editing function. The third function is save function. And the fourth function is deletion function. Now let's do with the first one, load function. So the first part in your PowerPoint, okay, you can see load function. So this is the load function. You can just copy and paste this one and then put in the load function. So this load function, it will load the data from the database, and then it will show the data into the table that you have in your HTML. So there are two kind of functions. Later we will check async and await. So async, it means asynchronous. So async, it means from the asynchronous. Asynchronous means you don't need to do this in the real time. So asynchronous, you can do this when you click the button. You can do this one when you, for example, refresh the page and etc. And then this is a function that you will run. The function name is load snack. Now we have the variable. The variable I use const. So this is constant. So constant means the variable you cannot modify. If you use this one, I think it is good practice. Whenever you get the data, for example, you are getting the data from the API. So it means that when you get this data, you can make sure that the data will not be modified. The data will not be changed because it is a constant. If you let the data updated by anybody in the web, then that will be something a problem. So for example, if you look at this CSS, so this is something that you cannot modify. So you can see this code, but you cannot modify. Okay, this is the constant. If you can modify, then it is a problem for other people. That's why whenever you get the data, it is good practice to make it as a constant. So I'm going to get the data from the API snacks. So later on, let's check what is the API snacks. So here I'm using await. Await means after I load this function, let's wait for some maybe 1 second and get the API snacks. Okay. Why we need to have this await? Await, this is from the asynchronous wait. The asynchronous wait, it is necessary if you directly load the data and directly get the API without some interval time, there might be some kind of problem when your data is very huge. Okay, when you have a very big data, it will be a problem, especially when you have the data. Let's say you are going to use map data. So map data is very huge, especially for the API. So it is better to use await. But for our example, the data is very small, so you cannot see the effect. If your data is very big, I think this is very good example. And then I'm going to put the variable response from this API, and I'm going to make it as a JSON. Okay, so this is the JSON file. After I create it as a JSON file, then let's get the list from the document that get element by ID list. So what is it? List. We want to get the element by the ID. So the get element by ID means you can go to the index and then you have this one, ID. The ID equals to list. So what is this list? This is the table. So the table, I want to get the HTML element from the table, and then let's make it blank. After it is started with blank, now let's get from the snacks. So snacks is the JSON file that we just created from the API. And then we are going to do the loop. So last time we learned about the JavaScript. We have the for loop. So in the JavaScript, they have also for each. So for each, it is to get the data for every key in the JSON file. So if you know the JSON file, last time we have the key and value. For every key, let's put it into a string. So here it is a string. And then what is the string? The string will be in terms of the list.inner HTML. So the list will be the tr. What is tr? This is the row. So you are going to create a row in the JavaScript file, and you are going to put it into the inner HTML. So what is the row? The content of the row will be, first, let's get the name. And then next, let's get the price. And then here, I want to make sure that the digit that you want to show into the web is only 2 digits. So it means if I have, for example, yeah, this is just to show the dollar sign, $150. Then there will be 2 digits, something like this. And then here we have the edit button and delete button. What is it? First, we have the edit button, and the second, we have the delete button. When we click on the button, so please put the ID, the name, and the price. So after I click on this edit button, I will deliver the ID into this function. I will deliver the name into this function, and I will deliver the price into this function. If I click on the delete button, I will deliver the ID on this function, delete snack. Then yeah, we complete the load snacks. Now let's go to the edit. Yeah, I give you this explanation. The first is the API, and then get the JSON, make the JSON file, and then get from the list, clear the list, and then use the iteration to create the row in the table. Now let's get the edit function. The prepare edit function, this is from this one, prepare edit. So I'm going to have 3 parameters, ID, name, and price. So the parameter means this is the ID and the name and the price that I want to do the editing. So if I do the editing here, then I will make the name equals to this name. I will make the price equals to this price. And then for the form title, I will make it as a edit snack. And for the submit button, I will make it as update. So what is the form title? In this case, the form title is here. We have the form title. The original form title is add snack. But if I'm doing the editing, let's make the form title becomes edit snack. And the last one, the submit button. Make it as update when I do the editing. The original button is add, but after I click on this one, I will do the update. Now let's change the variable. Edit mode equals to true. Okay, the first one, the edit mode is false. Now, because I'm going to edit the data, let's make it true. And then the current edit ID equals to the ID. So whenever I want to update any data, then I need to call the ID. Okay, so this is the explanation. You can replace the name, replace with the price, and then edit snack, and then update. And then change the edit mode. Now let's continue to the save function. In the save function, again, we are using the async function or the asynchronous function called the constant. So it makes sure that you will not modify the data during the transfer. So here I want to get the value from the name. Name is this one. From the ID name, and the ID price here, I want to get the value. From the ID price, I want to get the value and put it into the name and price. So there is a condition. If the name and the price that does not exist, okay, so it means this one not compute. This not compute means not exist. If name is empty, if price is empty, then return. So it means you cannot continue if name and price is empty. And then now you have the URL. The URL, if the edit mode. So what is edit mode? Yeah, in Python, you have the if condition, or we call this if comprehensive. The if comprehension. It means if the condition is true, then you will run after the question mark. If the condition is false, if the condition is true, you will run this section after the question mark. If the condition is false, then you will run after the column. So it means if you do the editing, I will get the API along with the ID. If I'm doing only the saving or I'm adding a new data, so I will just call the API next. So the same with this method. So the method here, if the edit mode is true, then use the method put. If the edit mode is false, use the method push. So this one. Then we will make the fetch or asynchronous wait. The asynchronous wait means I'm going to get the URL. So the URL means the API that you are going to save. What is the URL? Yeah, it follows the edit mode. If it is editing, then we will go to this one. If it is a new data, then it will go to this side. And the method, if it is editing, you will use put. If it is a new data, then you will use push. So the header, yeah, this is just to show that this is the JSON type. And then for the body, we want to make sure that the JSON that you want to send is included with the name and the price. And the price will be a float data. So we are using the parse. So last time in the JavaScript, we learned about the parse integer. The parse integer means we want to change the string into integer. But with the parse float, we want to change this string into float. Okay, because our data, if you look at in your database, the data, the price is float. The price is float. So you need to change the string into float type data. So after you save the data, now you can change the edit mode. Let's put the original value. The edit mode becomes false. And then let also put the current edit ID becomes null. And then let's make the name empty. Let's make the price empty. And then let's get back the original title as the add snack. And then let's put the original submit button as add. Okay, now we can load the snack. Load snack means we are going to get the snack again. So we will get the data again and show it into the table. So the last one is delete. Okay, so this is the explanation. You can see the explanation again. Yeah, I give you the explanation about the difference of the async and await. So if it is async, it is before the function keyword. Before the function. If it is await, so it is before the specific line that takes time. So like fetch. Okay, fetch means we want to get the data. Okay, so the difference is this one is for the function. This is for fetching the data. So the purpose is to define a function that handles asynchronous tasks. Okay? The name is asynchronous tasks. And for the await, it means this is to pause the execution until a task is completed. The async function can stand alone, but for the await, it should be inside the asynchronous function. So whenever you create the function, if you include in the asynchronous function, then you can use await. But if you cannot, if you do not use the asynchronous function, you cannot use await. So the last one is the delete. The delete is just finding the ID, and then after I know the ID, let's await and then get the ID, and the method will be delete. Then after I delete the ID, let's load the snack again. So at the first time, when you are in the first page, when you load the page, let's load the snack. It means you will get the snack data at the first time. Okay, so let's try again. Now let me create a new data. For example, pie. Maybe the price is 1,500, for example. Now you can see, yeah, the pie is available in the inventory and the price is $1,500. Let's say I have the choco, okay, and let's say the price is 2,500. So I can add the data and then I have this table. Let's say I'm going to edit this one. So when you edit, now the title becomes edit snack and the button becomes update. So I can, let's say I want to say this is choco pie. Okay. So choco pie, and then I'm going to update. Now the data becomes choco pie. And then let's say I want to delete this data. Then I can delete data, and then it will be deleted from the table. Okay. So this is the explanation. So there is one more note. If you remove await, The list will refresh before the item is actually gone from the database. So making it look like the button didn't work. So if you have the asynchronous, it is good if you put the await fetch when you do the put in your system. Okay, let me stop. Let's have a break. I'll continue after the break.